there's not a body system that nitric oxide does not touch. Pollen complex coupled with organic turmeric powder for anti-inflammatory properties, heart health in general, for boosting metabolism, for boosting brain health. There's all the research on it. That 1-2 combination is having amazing results already. We actually have 4 clinical trials this year completely focused on women's health and especially the peri and postmenopausal years of a woman's life. It's a unique physiological transition for every woman.
Welcome back to the channel. It's Dr. Durst, and today I have a special guest, and we are going to be talking about one of my favorite products and my favorite things, nitric oxide. And so welcome, Kathy. It's so good to have you back on the podcast. And Kathy, I'll just do a quick introduction. So Kathy Eason is the medical director, and it might be a different term. I'll let you correct that after, for Berkeley Life, which is a product that we use both in the foundational product that we've used forever and the new menopause product. And you've been part of that development. So Kathy, tell us a little bit about yourself and Berkeley Life.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. It's a pleasure to be back, and congratulations on the move to your new clinic space. We're so excited for you at Berkeley. Yeah, I'm actually the Chief Science Officer at Berkeley Life, so I get to spend all my time studying all the things that nitric oxide does. I am a 20-plus year, hard to say that, but a 20-plus year functional nutritionist. So I've been working with nutraceuticals for a long time. I have been with Berkeley Life for a couple years now and really enjoying everything I get to do towards promoting women's health, especially with a baseline of nitric oxide. We can't live without it. It is crucial to blood flow. Blood flow is our power source in so many ways. And I'm excited to dive in today to a few of the concepts that we want to make sure everybody's educated on so they know how important this little molecule is.
Yes, no, I think that it is something that people talk about, but they also kind of confuse a product thinking it's nitric oxide. So I like when they understand that they're taking something that helps them produce it. And I know you love the science of it. And it's, again, and it's made a huge difference for me. Like, I was inconsistently at first using it. I started just being consistent every day. And it made a world of difference, like the energy level, the brain clarity, all of that. So I want to talk about that and then the new product and how it helps with menopause. But I do have a little surprise before we do it. We met again in Vegas recently, and It was a great time at the A4M. So I got to see you again. But Stephen is here with me today in the studio and wanted to say hello. Yes, he came to the grand opening last night, and so that was awesome. And so he was going to pop by today and say hello.
Hey, Miss Kathy, I just wanted to surprise you. I actually left my coat here last night, so I had to come back and get it. I was like, let me pop in. Dr. Durst was happy enough to have me on. So hello, let's talk about menopause, and I'll see you in New York next week.
Yes, I'm so excited, buddy. One of Berkeley Life's best here, people. Stephen Thomas.
Yes. Well, and what's great is, again, that he's here local with us, which is awesome. So he gets to stop in the office and he gets to support the business. And again, we love the product. So it's a win-win for both of us.
All right, bye.
All right, bye. Thank you for stopping by.
Bye, Stephen. See you next week. That is a good surprise.
Yeah, that was a little... I kept saying his name and then I was getting in trouble in the background, but anyhow, so let's talk about nitric oxide first and how this new product helps with women and menopause and heart health and all the things.
Yeah. Okay. Where to begin, right? Because there's not a body system that nitric oxide does not touch. It is a potent signaling molecule in the body. We make it ourselves in a couple ways. We make it through some enzyme-dependent pathways. And then we also rely on the intake of dietary nitrates. We get them mostly through our leafy green vegetables, through beets and beetroot, beet greens, through celery, through one of my favorite nitrate foods is rhubarb, and you don't have to make it into a pie. There's lots of other ways to prepare it. And what it does in the body is it's a signaling molecule. Primarily it was discovered to vasodilate or open your blood vessels. That makes it so important for overall health, cardiovascular health, sexual wellness. It signals immune system markers. It signals uptake of glucose into your cells. It signals the mitochondria in your cells to regenerate and give you energy. And like you, when I first got introduced to Berkeley Life, this was many years ago, call it 8 years ago now, I think. I was using it with my nutrition patients, but I wasn't taking it for myself. And I'll be
Yeah.
honest that I didn't take it for myself until I came to work for Berkeley Life. And I noticed it within days. My energy
Mm-hmm.
was better, kind of my mental focus and acuity all day long. And when I don't take my dose of nitric oxide every day, or my second dose sometimes, I really notice it. I notice that my energy tanks a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
that I find myself, not being quite as focused for work or just, in conversation with friends. And so for me, for heart health, for protection of my cardiovascular system, to keep me healthy through cold and flu season,
Mm-hmm.
to balance my blood sugar, to help keep my weight managed and keep my energy up, I will take this every day for
Mm-hmm.
probably the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I eat my dietary nitrates. I eat all the cofactor nutrients that go with them. And there's lots of lifestyle hacks we can talk about to help build
Mm-hmm.
NO. But I feel so much better that it would be silly not to take it every day. And we
Yeah.
live in this sort of oxidatively stressful world. And I can't do everything about that. I can't mitigate every little exposure that comes my way. So I can protect myself by taking dietary nitrates in
Yeah.
supplemental form as well as augmenting the rest of my lifestyle.
Yeah, and of course you would do a very good job with the dietary intake, but I don't think a lot of people do, and probably including myself. And so that's why I always explain to patients that in 2 capsules you're going to get the nitrates you need for that, that pathway, the nutrient pathway. And so, because I don't think a lot of people do, but the fact that you did that,
Mhm.
that was your specialty for 20 years. So we will definitely dive into some lifestyle stuff that they can do that helps. So they know what kind of foods and, your little potential good recipes that you might have where we can throw some things together. But yeah, I love, again, with this product in particular that came out with the menopause and heart health, this one, again, so for women, and we just started using it in our female patients because before they were using the foundational product, which I still think is an option for some, and so maybe let's talk about how this product is different and special
Yeah.
for women and how it helps because it has some really unique ingredients in it.
It does, and we're proud of that because we really sought a solution for women in the perimenopause and menopausal years to not only relieve their annoying menopausal symptoms in the short term, but to provide cardiovascular protection, heart health protection, and resilience for the lifespan, and or should I say the health span. I think you and I are both of the same mind that we're going to age more than gracefully. We're going to age with vitality and with
Hmm.
vibrancy. And I won't be the old lady sitting in a recliner. That's for sure. I'm going to,
No.
be living my active life as long as possible. So,
Yeah.
what we developed for the menopause and heart health support builds on the legacy and the efficacy of our nitric oxide support. And it adds an element to target specifically the most common and probably the most troubling menopausal signs. So, we wanted something that targeted our thermoregulation. So, goodbye hot flashes and night sweats. I know so many women that struggle with those for 10, 15 years
Hmm.
around the perimenopause transition, and it's just unnecessary.
Hmm.
We also know that sleep and sleep disruption is a huge factor in perimenopause, and that for women's health and just for having the energy and the rest and repair cycles, we have got to get that sleep pattern under control, or life starts to become pretty miserable. And
Hmm.
then finally, we also know that mood is a huge issue. Every perimenopausal woman will tell you that she's got her moments of anxiety, of irritability, of just being completely annoyed with their partner or their family. And
Hmm.
that's not really a healthy way to walk around the world. So we chose something in the product that helps target all three of those things while also continuing to use the nitric oxide support. So in the menopause and heart health support is one sleeve of nitric oxide support to keep signaling nitric oxide production, converting dietary nitrates to nitric oxide to open blood flow. When you have open blood flow and better blood flow, your heart works better, and all systems work better. And then the other capsule, it's a 2 capsule a dose a day. And the other capsule in the menopause formula is a purified pollen complex with some organic turmeric powder. The pollens are interesting. They have been used widely across other parts of the world, quite historically, actually. What we have done with modern technology is we go into the cytoplasm or the very interior of the pollen, little pollen, individual pollens, extract the cytoplasm. That purified pollen works on brain mechanisms. So you intake it, it makes its way through boosted blood flow to the brain, where it has a serotonin sparing mechanism. When you keep serotonin in regions of the brain that control your temperature, that control your sleep wake cycles, that control the brain chemistry that balances your mood and your cognition and your ability to focus, what happens is serotonin hangs out in the brain a little bit longer, allowing all those functions to be signaled by serotonin. And what we know about the menopausal transition is, first of all, nitric oxide production is declining because estrogen has a direct relationship. As estrogen drops, nitric oxide production drops, where our blood flow is starting to be restricted and less fluid. We're more at risk for cardiovascular disease. At the same time, estrogen drops, it's also playing a role on serotonin production and how long it hangs out in those brain tissues that need to do all that signaling. So the purified pollen complex, coupled with organic turmeric powder for anti-inflammatory properties, for heart health in general, for boosting metabolism, for boosting brain health, there's all the research on it. That 1-2 combination is having amazing results already. We just launched this product in December of 2025. We're already hearing kind of amazing testimonials. And one just came in the other day that after 10 days on the product, a woman's hot flashes and night sweats were completely eliminated, just 100% out of there. Now, some women, depending on your lifestyle, depending on how much oxidative stress you're exposed to or have been, you might benefit from taking more nitric oxide every day. That's what I do. I take my pollen complex and nitric oxide in the morning, and I take a second dose later in the day because I want those dietary nitrates circulating in my system for 24 hours so that I always have the ability to break down nitrates to nitric oxide to boost my blood flow and boost every other function in my body. I'll
Yeah,
give you one.
that's a great idea.
My own testimonial about the pollen complex is kind of interesting. So I am postmenopausal, and through diet and lifestyle, my symptoms haven't been too bad. Don't hate me, ladies. That's just the truth. But what I noticed is that I didn't really have the symptoms perimenopausal. I had more of them postmenopausal. Probably stress induced, a lot going on in life with other parents at that time of transition. But what I didn't recognize is I got like an advanced bottle of the pollen complex and I started taking it. And I took it solidly for 2 weeks and then I stopped. And what I noticed when I stopped is that I was having anxiety that was showing up for me in the form of nightmares. And they were crazy nightmares. Like I was being trapped and held. I was kicking my way out and all that. And I didn't really recognize that I wasn't manifesting anxiety through the day. For me, it was coming out at night. When I started taking the pollen complex again, those nightmares have now completely gone away. And now I'm sold. Like I know that the serotonin is working in my brain to balance that brain chemistry, keep my system calm, keep me better adaptive to stress. And those nightmares are no more.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think that also another trick for that kind of added is the gum. So I have added that, like if I'm going into the gym, I will end up chewing the gum, which is great. And it actually has a better taste this time. I like it. And so it works perfectly. That's another way to boost it is to do some of the gum throughout because people like something different than a capsule.
Absolutely. And it's also a way to get, sort of that boosted dose in you later. So I mentioned earlier that nitric oxide signals energy production, helps us make healthy new mitochondria. That gives us the energy to power through the workout, to get through the walk, to climb the stairs at home, carrying the basket of laundry, whatever it is, all these activities of daily living. And the gum will help us with that boost when you need that just little bit extra. The gum was really designed for people who don't convert their dietary nitrates very well. We rely on the quality and the function of our oral microbiome to help us break down any dietary nitrate we eat, whether it's a spinach salad, a bowl of beets, all
Hmm.
those things rely on the function of oral microbes to help us start reducing that molecule nitrate to something closer to nitric oxide. When that's out of balance, maybe because, people are using antiseptic mouthwashes, maybe they are
Hmm.
using some essential oils a little too frequently that sort of disrupt the balance in the mouth, then the gum was designed to replenish that. So what the gum does is it feeds the microbes in the mouth, boost the nitrate reducing species. We put some probiotics in the new formula. So we're also building oral and gut health with some probiotics in the formula. You're right. It does taste a little better.
Hmm.
And
I think
I
it's good
use it like,
now.
yeah, I liked the last one. This one maybe has a little bit more of a kind of reminds me of juicy fruit. I think that's the addition of the probiotics. I think they have their own kind of sweetness to them. So
Mm.
I use it like you. I use it on my way to the gym, on my way to a yoga class. I live at some elevation, so getting some oxygen to my lungs is important and a little more difficult. So I use it when I go out, take a walk or a hike, and I really
Yeah.
feel that energy boost. If I don't have it in my purse or in my car, I find myself scrambling looking for it because that's the way I get that kind of secondary dose in later in the day.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I love the gum. Like, I think that's a great little boost for, and so we had a little trick that we came up with in December for that, for the men, because again, obviously you need nitric oxide for the PD5 inhibitors or Cialis and Viagra to work. And so they are always afraid to take it before dinner because they're afraid they'll get an erection at dinner and time it wrong. But you can't just spontaneously. That's not how Viagra and Cialis work. So you still need to have stimulation. So that it's not going to happen during
Yeah.
dinner. And they need it on an empty stomach. But we decided that then right after dinner, they need an extra boost with the gum. It like is, you have the gum, it's good for your oral health, but it's good for also then boosting your nitric oxide for the PD5 inhibitors to work. So we kind of decided that's a good pairing for men. And it actually isn't kind of like a sweet. I think it is a refreshing, but not
Yeah.
overly sweet. So I think it's
Yeah.
perfect for that now. So that's what we're
Yeah.
recommending to men.
That's so great, and don't forget the ladies too, because ladies need
Hmm.
blood flow to, perfuse the sexual organs so that they
Oh,
also
yeah.
have better lubrication, receptivity, enhanced orgasm experience. So I think the gum's kind of a great, what a sweet little gesture too. Like, here, honey, have some gum and
Right? I
chew
know.
the gum and sort of
Yeah.
set the stage for what's ahead.
Hey, this is a really healthy gum with some probiotics in it. Please take. That's a good thing. Well, and
It's very
so
sexy.
I think it brings us to, because obviously, we do a lot of sexual wellness and that's our passion. And we do have, a hormone optimization. That's like, what we're doing on most of our men and women. There's some that cannot take. But even with that, again, just this extra boost. Obviously, you still need nitric oxide. That's independent of the hormones. Um, but you also could potentially, have a dosage change because you're on the product and you have some more control of symptoms. But also, they still have some ongoing. And I think serotonin is a big issue sometimes with them because if anything that continues, it's kind of sleep and mood. And so just the fact that they have that stabilization, but all those women are also for the sexual wellness part of it and the blood flow, and our ladies understand that a lot better than the general population, I think, because we're just now talking about perimenopause and menopause, but we haven't quite got to all the vaginal
Right.
occurrences, everything that's happening physiologically with the vagina, we have not got to yet, and so
Right.
in the clitoris. So talk a little bit about. Again, I could probably go on for hours just about the clitoris, sexual function for women, and how important the blood flow is. But talk a little bit about that. You mentioned it. I think women need to hear how important nitric oxide is for engorgement and arousal.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's really great research on this too. There's not enough because, of course, we're lagging in women's health and women's sexual health research, but Berkeley Life is working on that. We have already done 2 clinical trials on female sexual function alone, showing that the increase in dietary nitrate levels that circulate in the body then convert to nitric oxide, boost blood flow. When you boost blood flow, it's not selective. It's not just that blood flow is boosted to your heart, it is every tissue in the body. That includes the genitalia. So we need engorged blood flow into the women's sexual reproductive organs. We need the nitric oxide to help us. It contributes to hormone balance. So I said it played a role in sparing serotonin in the brain. Well, the part of that serotonin sparing mechanism also has to do with releasing your love hormone, oxytocin. So we know that when there's a little better brain balance from the boosted serotonin, both from the nitric oxide and from the purified pollen complex, we see better hormone balance around sexual wellness. So now your desire is more. You're more attracted to your partner, even if you've been together for a long time and you think you're just tired of them. No, you're not. You're just depleted. So get your NO boosted. Let that tissue perfuse. You will have a so much more healthy, comfortable, less dry sexual experience by boosting blood flow. And I want to make a point too about the pollen complex. Is part of the reason we chose that is a non-hormonal perimenopausal support. There are women who, for whatever reason, cannot or do not want to use hormone therapy. This is an alternative, but it's a great plus one tool. We find that practitioners like yourself and other hormone replacement therapy specialists around the country, by boosting blood flow, you're enhancing the delivery of the hormones that you're using in your HRT. You're also enhancing the receptivity. The hormone receptor sites they sort of sit up more nicely in the vascular system, for lack of a better definition. Turn on that signal better. Now you're going to get your hormone balance. Now you're going to get improved blood flow to the sexual organs. Now you're going to experience what the women in our study did. 83% had an enhanced orgasm experience. What woman does not want to have an enhanced orgasm experience?
Right.
73% had 78% had better lubrication. So less painful sex is key. It's key to connection. It's key to, it's not, if it's not comfortable, it's not comfortable, and you're going to be less likely, right, to make love to your partner. So we want to boost that blood flow, boost that lubrication and desire. That's going to make for a healthier sexual function, healthier couples and families and communities, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And women can fake a lot of things, but they cannot fake pain like that when it's present.
Right.
Everyone's aware, and it's a huge issue for women. But I will just say that with blood flow, like lubrication, vaginal lubrication is a function of blood flow. It's literally an ultrafiltration. So the more blood flow you get, the more lubrication that you get. And the clitoris, so again, like the female, kind of sex organs is instead of like even reproduction, because now we're talking about perimenopause, menopause, we're beyond the reproductive years, and women kind of just get ignored then, right? Because it's all about the reproduction. And then after, 6 weeks post your last, child, you pretty much like are done. They don't know what to do with it. And so I would say that we're looking at, like, if we look at men and sexual function and the penis being core to that, right? And blood flow and how it functions. Well, the clitoris is like that for women. So we haven't yet wrapped our brain around what the core organ is for a woman, but it's the clitoris. It's the equivalent of the male penis. And so blood flow, and there's a lot behind the scenes. It's not just a small little thing that's showing on the surface. There's legs that engulf, the vagina, and has a lot to do with orgasm. And so engorgement of the clitoris is key to a woman and sexual function and sexual pleasure and an orgasm. So it's so important to get the nitric oxide so you can get blood flow and engorgement, and arousal is much better. Orgasmic strength, like you said, 83%. It's just huge. But it's like the clitoris is our penis, and
Our little penis.
it's a little penis. So it's like really like a blood vessel. It's a big blood vessel, just like the penis. So yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, and thank you, because I didn't touch on that, but it is super important. You're right. Just, we take it for granted that men need to get hard. Well, guess what? Women need to be engorged to have that all feel great. So yeah, we want to encourage that.
Yeah, no, the clitoris is like key. I think we need to start like focusing in on it because it's so
Yeah,
important. And again, it's external to the vaginal canal, and obviously, but it plays a central role for women, and so has to be involved. And blood flow is so important. So yeah, the gum before, right after dinner, like, and throwing gum, like in addition to the daily product is a great way to just boost that in the
absolutely.
evening or later on, or pre-workout helps with sexual function later too. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
women will start talking about it more because at least now, we are talking about perimenopause and menopause more. I love that the FDA, finally, after 20 years,
Right.
has, greater than 20 years, has again, kind of declared all the positive benefits, but it took us 20 years to remove a warning that does scare a lot of women. So maybe there are women that can't take, hormones, but don't want to, but at least some of those that were fearful before might be okay, exploring that now that the FDA has kind of given them the okay. So it does broaden, those women and their potential exposure to. But again, I think this product and the fact that nitric oxide has, yes, the hormones and nitric oxide play a role, but you need this product for nitric oxide production, which is just key for longevity now and blood flow,
Yes.
everything. Heart health. Did you guys have a study on the heart, like specifically with that you would like to discuss with the nitric oxide product?
Yeah, we do. I'm so glad you asked because this is the where I get to geek out. We actually have 4 clinical trials this year completely focused on women's health and especially the peri and postmenopausal years of a woman's life. It's a unique physiological transition for every woman. Sure, there are the 48 signs of menopause that women complain about, but beyond that, every woman's experience is unique. The timing, the onset, when the symptoms come on. Like I said, I didn't really have perimenopausal symptoms. Mine came postmenopausal,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe I wasn't super aware of them. So Berkeley Life has a landmark clinical trial where we tested the function of nitric oxide support, our dietary nitrates, in reducing blood pressure. Great success there. We brought down systolic blood pressure almost 13 points. We brought down diastolic blood pressure about 5 points, improvements in circulation, improvements in inflammatory blood markers like low density lipoproteins and sort of metabolic markers of inflammation. Well, now the trial that's currently in progress, and we're going to have the first preliminary data at the end of this quarter. So, the end of March, we should have this. We're doing a clinical trial using the menopause and heart health support products. So, that's the purified pollen blend with the nitric oxide, and we're measuring all sorts of menopausal quality of life indicators, sexual health and wellness, cognitive support, and cognitive factors and signs in our lives. Metabolic, how's our weight balancing? Are we managing our blood sugars well? We're also in that study, they're measuring some physical recovery capacity, and then they're also measuring blood pressure. So these women who are in this trial right now are utilizing this product. And I'm so excited to see the data because I think what we're going to find based on this research we've done on other uses of this pollen blend, I think we're going to find some dramatic results. The nitric oxide coupled with the pollen, coupled with the turmeric, is going to help women with that silent disease, which is cardiovascular disease. Women in the perimenopausal transition often don't know that their
Mm-hmm.
blood pressure is creeping up. They blame it on age. They're told you're just stressed out and you need to lose 10 pounds and your blood pressure will be fine. No, this has a estrogen deficiency and a nitric oxide deficiency component to it. So we hope to see with this clinical trial that blood pressure comes down in these women, that other inflammatory markers like cholesterol, that's another one that creeps up on women for reasons that we know physiologically, but we often don't find out about it until there's a problem and then a physician wants to administer a medication instead of looking for that root cause. So we want to see what we expect to see is improvements in sexual function, improvements of quality of life indicators, cognitive support, I
Mm-hmm.
think is a big one. So less brain fog, more mental focus and acuity,
Mm-hmm.
uh, less walking into the room and forgetting your son's name, or heaven
Mm-hmm.
forbid, forgetting your partner's name. I hear that one a lot. And then these improvements in heart health via reduced risk factors like hypertension, risk of blood clots, risk of developing metabolic disease like diabetes. We're going to see some improvements in that, as well as we're going to measure hormones and nitric oxide capacity together. So there's a whole lot of data being gathered in this first clinical trial coming out later this year. And I can't wait to come back and tell you about it because
Yeah,
I'm
no,
pretty
that's
excited.
awesome.
It'll
That
be
is
great.
awesome. And in fact, cardiovascular disease is still the number one cause of death for women, and it's more than any of the cancers. And so it does need to be highlighted. And again, as our hormones decline, inflammation in the body increases, that's when all the diseases happen. And so the root cause is really the hormones. And so if we can optimize, but again, supplements, nutrients, dietary, lifestyle, it all matters. But no, they don't realize that as soon as they're, starting to get decline in the hormones, that's already working behind the scenes. And so keeping your blood vessels healthy. So I can't wait to hear that study because again, number one killer in women too.
Yeah.
But,
And
and it
I want
significant.
this message to go to younger women too,
Mm-hmm.
because see, women tend to not really think about it until they're 40, right? 40 seems to be this, what they think is this magic number. Oh, I'm going to enter menopause. I'm going to be just like my mom's miserable experience. It's like, well, you know what? Guess what? That oxidative stress and those creeping up of signs and symptoms, that's been happening since your 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want younger women to get this message like, look, you can have better health, better sex, and you can protect your heart health going forward and not have these miserable menopausal signs like your mom did or your aunt did if
Mm-hmm.
you start working on it early.
Yeah, we actually had a patient in and he was doing some sexual wellness, and I had one of my young nurses in, and she was talking about how she was doing the product and she takes it every day. And he looks at her and he was older and he said, well, you don't need to take it yet. And she goes, well, if I keep taking it, then I'll never need to take it. Like, but I, but I take it for health. And she's so cute. She just smiles after, and he's like, well, you have a good point. So yeah, like she's
Smart
like, I'll
woman.
never need to take it because I'm taking it every day. Yeah. So, um, but no, it was good. And so, any dietary stuff, go ahead and give us those hints. I won't keep you too long after that. I want to hear what you have to say about nitrates in your diet. What can we do?
Yeah. Okay, so I am a nutritionist and I am all about the veg. I'm all about the vegetable matter. There's so many reasons you need your leafy green vegetables. If you think you don't like spinach, try a different green. If you think you don't like the preparation, try a different one. But in my diet, I make sure to incorporate a really broad spectrum of those leafy greens. So spinach, kale, arugula, Swiss chard, collard greens, mustard greens, dandelion greens, all of those are very rich in nitrates. It's super important to prepare them well, meaning um, just having a spinach salad every day, we tend not to chew it enough and we don't get the full benefit of it. So making sure you really chew your nitrates, nitrate rich foods. Maybe you're sauteing or steaming your greens, adding them to every meal. Think outside the box. I have
Mm-hmm.
greens for breakfast just about every day. So it's part of my,
Oh,
sort of protein punch in the morning is, eggs and greens and nice salsas and things like that. There are celery is a great source of nitrates, and you might also find celery salt in a lot of sort of not over processed, but in processed foods. Not a terrible source of nitrates. You want to stay away from like the more chemically processed foods. Have some charcuterie, but don't have it every day of the week. You're going to get some nitrates there that are little they're too processed and they tend to oxidize in the system. So we want the ones that come with the antioxidant foods, and that's
mm-hmm.
your leafy green vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Other tricks for building nitric oxide naturally in your body is first of all, get out in sunlight every day. Now, I live in a place where we don't necessarily get sunlight every day, but my habit in the morning is I go outside in my grass in my bare feet, even if it's cold here in Oregon. I try to put my face in the sun. I ground myself to the earth a little bit. I'm a little bit of a, woo woo girl like that. But what I'm also doing is allowing UV light to come onto my skin. What that does is stimulate nitric oxide production, and then nitric oxide uses the UV light to help us produce more vitamin D3 in the body, which is
Mm-hmm.
very protective for your immune system, for your heart, for your skin. So get in sunlight every day. And when I'm out there, I'm doing my breath work. And the breath work is important to do it through the nasal cavities and not through the mouth. We have a culture of people who are sort of habitual mouth breathers. They're out there kind of overdoing it on the exercise machine. They are maybe lots of sinus congestion and they can't breathe through their nose very well. So we want to retrain ourselves, mouth taping at night to keep the lips closed and try to retrain the brain to breathe through the nasal cavity, because we make a lot of nitric oxide in the parasinuses, in the cavities in our face. That gets so quickly delivered to your brain. You want to boost your brain health. Do some nostril breathing, and there's lots of ways to do it. There's the 4-7-8 breath, and there's the box breathing. Just YouTube some breathing exercises. Find the ones that work for you, but make it a habit to get breath work every day. Regular exercise, but maybe not over exercising. A lot of people create too much oxidative stress and sort of break down the integrity of their blood vessels by just simply over exercising. So, you can take it a little easier than you think, and that exercise might actually work better for you. And then it's avoidance of certain things, avoiding highly antiseptic, antimicrobial mouth rinses, because again, we don't want to degrade the value and the integrity and the balance of those bacterial species in the mouth. The other thing the leafy greens will do for you, they're providing the fibers that feed your intestinal bacteria. That keeps your gut health happy. It also helps us with some species in the gut that also reduce nitrates to nitric oxide. So you're giving yourself a little NO boost there as well too. And then avoiding, some of the common things I hope most of your listeners and your patients are avoiding. Don't smoke or vape. That's really the quickest way to create oxidative stress and bring, inflammation in and nitric oxide down. So give up some of those unhealthy habits and get back to your body and back to your breath.
Yeah, though that's great advice. Well, thank you for sharing. I always like to hear the lifestyle aspect of it too.
Yeah.
Well, I cannot wait. Let's get back on when you are done with your cardiovascular studies so we can hear all about the positive effects. And then we'll touch base again. I thank you so much for being on today, talking about the new product, how it helps with menopause, how it's different, because I love the plant pollen that was added with the anti-inflammatory component as well. And so thank you for sharing. We are, again, after December, because we were there, our patients are using it, so we're waiting to hear back. On all of the positive. Usually we see them every 3 months, so probably around March, that round after Vegas. So yeah, we'll let you know
Great.
how it's going. I told Stephen we would update him. And thank you, Kathy, for taking time out today to talk
Thank you
about.
for having me.
Yes. So just remember, everyone, Berkeley Life, it's a great product and it's menopause and health support for women. There's also a foundational product that doesn't have the plant-based pollen in it, doesn't help with the menopausal necessarily, but it's a great product too. And a lot of our patients are still using both because they love that other product and didn't want to give it up fully. So
They shouldn't.
no,
They should take
exactly.
both.
Yes. Well, thank you. We'll stay warm out there in Oregon and we will
Yeah, I
talk
will.
soon. So thank you guys for
Thanks so much
tuning
for having
in
me.
and let us know. Start conversations in the comments and let us know if there's any questions. We're willing to also deep dive into anything wellness or sexual wellness. So thank you for viewing.